Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Now, I don't think the idol was bad per se. I just thought it was boring. For a show that had so much press about how sick and twisted it was, I was very disappointed. I don't think I really couldn't finish it because I was that bored. The only real feelings this whole saga has evoked in me is a wish or a want for celebrities to go back to being quiet. The way The Weeknd has showed his ass is just not it. I miss when celebrities were just mysterious and they didn't talk to us. Bring it back. Now, usually, I'm not one to get into shows until the public discourse is done, and that's not like intentional or anything. It's just procrastination. Like my brain won't allow me to focus on something until it feels like it. Like this could be months, weeks, years. I remember I didn't even I didn't even really start Game of Thrones until like a year after it finished, just because I kept saying I'll get to it, and then I blinked and like it'd been like 20 years later. But yeah, that's just how my brain works. But as I'm trying to take this YouTube thing more seriously and be part of like the pop culture conversation, it makes sense to talk about the idol because it's one that's been gathering a lot of attention. Not necessarily good attention, but a lot of people are talking about it. And I got a little curious to see if it's as bad as everyone says it is. So let's find out. Before we dive into the first episode, it makes sense to explore some background information. So The Idol is an American drama television series created by Sam Levinstein, The Weeknd, and Riza Fahim. The series focuses on an aspiring pop idol played by Lily Rose Depp, who, after having a nervous breakdown that caused her last tour to be cancelled, begins a complex relationship with Tedros, a self-help guru and the head of a contemporary cult played by The Weeknd. Development for the series started back in June 2011 when The Weeknd announced that he would be creating, executive producing and co-writing a drama series for HBO. Joseph Epstein and Amy Seimetz were attached to serve as writer, showrunner and director respectively. Seimetz's initial approach to the project was that of a troubled starlet falling victim to a predatory industry figure and fighting to reclaim her own agency. However, it seems that Sam Levinstein decided to take in another direction. According to the infamous Rolling Stone article, it was reported that Amy left the project because The Weeknd felt like the show was leaning too heavily into the female perspective, which is interesting because the show is based around a female pop star, so surely her perspective should be dominant. But okay. Much of the series was filmed when Levinstein took over directing duties after Seimetz exited the project in the middle of production, causing delays and creative U-Haul in April 2012. Basically, Levinstein scrapped Seimetz's work and production resumed in May in a completely different direction. It's funny because the show actually seemed like it was off to a pretty good start. It had some pretty talented people attached. The concept, as explained by Seimetz, sounds very compelling and interesting, and the fact that it was greenlit by HBO is a plus because, in my opinion, they don't really miss when it comes to TV shows. Some of my favorite TV shows have been by HBO, or have been greenlit by HBO. But then out of nowhere, Amy drops out, the issue with creative direction, and then Rolling Stone drops this article, basically calling it torture porn, quoting 13 sources on set who criticized the new direction and described the experience as a negative, toxic work environment. The show had turned into a PR nightmare just like that, and it wasn't helped by the fact that after the Rolling Stone article, The Weeknd posted this tweet basically as a response. He basically used a clip from the show where they talked negatively about Rolling Stone, insinuating that the article was just about them being butthurt.
Rolling Stone? Are they a little irrelevant?
I don't really have any opinion or thoughts on this. It could have been for drama, it could have been genuine, I don't really care. But after that, the noise kind of died down a little, and it seemed like things were back on track. So much so that they were even able to screen 2 episodes at the Cannes Festival 2 weeks before its premiere. At the press conference, Sam boasted about how provocative the show was. And to him, that meant like it was going to be the biggest show of the summer. And to me, that's kind of where the red flags started peeping up.
When my wife read me the article, I looked at her and I just said, I think we're about to have the biggest show of the summer.
Now, I don't know how to properly explain it, but I think Sam understands controversial as good. I think he thinks being provocative and having shocking content can replace good storytelling, and it can't. There was a reason Euphoria Season 1 was so good, because even though it had these problems, it was a decent story that was told beautifully.
personally, writing about my own experiences and my battles with addiction as a teenager becomes therapeutic in a way.
This show can't be written by anyone else because it's so personal. I understand Rue, and for some reason, and I can't really describe it, but she doesn't feel like a huge departure from who I am,
Right.
which is you would think weird.
But season 2 felt like it was trying to be shocking for the sake of it. Like the characters' motivations didn't make sense. It just felt like it was lacking in substance. There was spaces in the runtime where it could have been filled with dialogue or storytelling to help us understand, but it was just taken up by pretty shots. It wasn't making sense. And that's where his work is starting to lose favor with the public, because you can't use controversial or shock value to replace good storytelling, because there's nothing for the audience to get attached to. All you're going to do is create a buzz online that's going to last for what, 15 minutes of fame, and then everyone's on to the next. It just seems like he's more interested in having that provocative, shocking title over his work than it actually being good. Basically, he just climbed too far up his own arse and he needs to come back out and touch grass. Anyways, yes, after the screening at the press conference, they all seemed pretty proud of themselves, but then reviews from critics told a completely different story. Bear in mind, when I decided to watch this show, I didn't really pay attention to all the press surrounding it, so I tried to go into it with an unbiased mind. Like, all the information I've just given you is stuff I found out after, when I was making this video. And after watching it, I was just underwhelmed. Like, I don't want to say it's bad, it was just boring. I just didn't care. I literally gave up halfway through. Like, I completely watched episode 1. I watched episode 2 from start to finish, spent like half of it on my phone. And a couple minutes into episode 3, I just stopped because I was like, I actually don't care. I really don't care. Then I put on The Bear instead, and that is a series that you should watch. I recommend it to almost everyone. If you haven't seen it already, go watch The Bear.
This is your brother's house. I was running it fine without you.
Why didn't you leave it to you then?
I wasn't even going to finish making this video until I saw 2 things on social media. So the first was that he basically based aspects of the story on Selena Gomez's life and her troubles during 2016-2017.
A lot of Jocelyn is definitely inspired by my experiences and experiences that of other artists that I've witnessed, male, female.
And that's like such a fucked up thing for an ex to do. Like, to tell such an invasive story without basically their consent. It's kind of gross. So that gave me a reason to continue to shit on it. But also the fact that the final episode was supposed to reveal that Jocelyn was this master manipulator the whole time. That was just hilarious to me because it was never given that, ever. So yeah, for this video to make sense though, I did go back and kind of skip through episode 3, kind of same thing for episode 4, and kind of paid attention for episode 5, just so I can provide you guys a cohesive timeline of what takes place in the story. So yeah, let's break down each episode and talk about it.
Okay, all set.
Give me one of those laughs again, Joss.
So episode 1, Pop-Tarts and Rat Tails, follows Jocelyn as she preps for the triumph return after taking a break from the spotlight due to her mother's passing. At the photo shoot for a single or album cover, I think, a leaked photo sent her team into crisis mode, just as a journalist arrives on set to do an in-depth profile on her. After rehearsals, one of Jocelyn's backup dancer and friend called Diane takes her to a nightclub to kind of get the stress away and like let her hair down after a long hard day. At the club, she meets and connects with the club owner called Tedros. They have a conversation about music and she expresses her desire to want to be taken seriously. He comes across as like being honest and genuine. And after a conversation she has with her best friend / assistant that just tells her that music is good even though she feels like it isn't, she invites Tedros over. They drink, smoke a little, and then go to the studio where she shows him the music. They end up recording a different version of the single that's supposed to come out, and that's pretty much it for the first episode. Bear in mind, the episode is almost an hour long, and that's literally all that happens. The There's also this scene that reminds you that this script was very aggressively written by middle-aged men.
What's wrong with him? He's so rapey. Yeah, I kind of like that about him.
I hope you like prison food.
It's not bad, it's not terrible, it's just incredibly slow, but it is pretty. And to be fair, first episodes of series usually are kind of boring and slow because they need to introduce us to the world and the characters, and I think it does a decent job of doing that. We kind of get the stakes, like this comeback is important, it needs to go well, and we feel that pressure that the team is putting on her and that she's also kind of putting on herself. But yeah, all in all, didn't hate it, but didn't love it either. I thought overall it was too slow, but very, very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, it's not happening.
In episode 2, Double Fantasy, after clashing with her team over the sound of her album's lead single, Jocelyn pushes herself to the limits on the set of her new music video. While Nikki, the record label executive producer, sees potential in her backup dancer called Diane as a potential replacement for Jocelyn. Later, Tedros introduces Jocelyn and Lila to Isaac and Chloe and a few more others from his cult/inner circle thing. I did feel bad for Jocelyn because we can see she's really pushing herself despite not being fully ready. But again, it felt like it dragged. The pacing for me just didn't work. And the lead single, both Jocelyn's version and the label's version, were both terrible. I didn't like the song. It's ironic how they condemn Jocelyn's version for being too sexual. Yeah, it's the same lyrics, and these are like the dance moves for the original that they plan to release. So, but yeah, again, with episode 2, great gowns, beautiful gowns, meaning aesthetically pleasing, but slow, dragging. I spent half of it on my phone. I wasn't engaged.
Boring, yawning, sloppy, lazy.
I feel like if they chopped scenes up more and inserted more into it, the story, then yeah, I could have been somewhat interested.
Get up. Let's go shopping.
In episode 3, Daybreak, we see as Tedros inserts himself more into Jocelyn's life, offering input on her style and collaborators, what kind of music she makes, who she makes it with. We also see Layla bringing her growing concerns about Tedros to Haim and Destiny, who are also probably who are part of Jocelyn's team. Honestly, I don't really have any specific thoughts or opinions. This is the episode where they kind of lost me. But I guess it's the episode where we kind of see Jocelyn get more embedded and become more attached to members within Tedros's like cult/inner circle. I think this was one of the most boring episodes of the season. And bear in mind, it contains a car commercial where Tedros gives Jocelyn head in like a drop down with the wind blowing. I'm not gonna lie, that looked lit. I would personally like to experience that. But yeah, all in all, again, decent gowns. There's also a fucked up scene where he encourages Jocelyn to channel her trauma into her art and perform a bondage session on her using the same hairbrush that her mother used to use to beat her. I think this is the shocking part they're going for, but again, it was so slow and dragged out that I don't care. I don't care.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
You were right about this guy. He's a bad motherfucker.
How bad?
Bad to the fucking bone.
Episode 4, Stars Belong to the World. We see Tedros and Jocelyn officially making new music. The team, after finding out some stuff about Tedros and his past shady behavior and worried about his influence on Jocelyn, they send Destiny to the house to kind of be the eyes and ears and keep a watch over what's going on. Though initially disturbed by what's going on in the house, Destiny eventually comes around as she's impressed by the caliber of music that's being created by Tedros' inner circle. There's also this part about Tedros torturing or punishing Xander that I didn't quite get. If I'm being honest, I just didn't understand it. Side note, Troye Sivan is still so fucking beautiful. Mwah, chef kisses. Towards the end of the episode, where they're having their usual hangout party things, Jocelyn learns that Diane basically recruited her to Tedros' group and has since been offered a record deal with her label. And to get back at Tedros, Jocelyn invites her ex-boyfriend, a movie star called Rob, to her house and has sex with him within Tedros' earshot. Xander, now loyal to Tedros after the whole torture thing, which again I don't get, tricks Rob into posing for a suggested photo with Sophie, one of Tedros' followers, which is used to like cause trouble for him in the next episode. To be honest, this one was all over the place, not as pretty as the rest. So I feel like we were missing a lot of information, so it just didn't quite make sense to me. And bear in mind, it's the episode before the finale.
He knew this like random backup dancer of mine, and he saw that I followed her on Instagram, and he'd been like obsessed with me for years, like back when he was in prison and stuff. And
in the season finale of episode 5, Jocelyn Forever, Jocelyn accuses Tedros of being an obsessed fan, a con artist, and a fraud. This causes him to slowly unravel, and we watch him kind of lose his mind as she kicks him out. Despite this, Tedros remains at Jocelyn's estate and accompanies her to meetings when she's asked him not to be there. See, majority of the first episode is centered around Jocelyn having a showcase, basically to prove to her team that she's ready for this tour, as they're kind of feeling uncomfortable and unsure of what's going on at the house. So the showcase is to show them all the amazing talent that she's basically found. Kind of taking credit for Tedros' cult, I guess.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
yeah, shut the fuck up. Nobody's talking to you.
Were you talking to my people? They're an extension of me.
Tedros, these are my fucking people now.
After like hearing the takes on how she's basically the villain the whole time, I guess I can kind of see how they tried to do that. But to me, it's not that she was a master manipulator and she stole his work from him. It's kind of like she freed them from this psychotic, unhinged, drug addict, alcoholic guy that has loads of shady behavior behind him. So that idea doesn't really work out the way they, I think, intended it to work out. When she finds out what he did to Rob and planting a story that basically he had R'd someone at the party, she asks Haim to get rid of him. And at first he offers him money to go away, but Tedros doesn't take it. So then he destroys his reputation basically by having the Vanity Fair writer write an article exposing all his past shady dealings. Also, after seeing Jocelyn back on top form and all the amazing talents and the music that she has at the house, Nikki, the record label executive, takes back Diane's record deal and basically chucks her out. And then there's like a 6-week time jump to the opening night of Jocelyn's tour, and it's clear that Tedros has been out of her life for a minute now, and Tedros' life has gone to shit basically. And mind you, this is all told to us through exposition. And I have to say, this scene with the 3 of them from the team basically rubbing their fingers together and cackling over how they ruined Tedros' life is so cringe and pathetic. It feels beneath the production. I know it's not even good to start with, but it just feels beneath them. They are literally cackling like cartoon villains. I hate it so much.
Boring, yawning, sloppy, lazy.
So yeah, basically she invites him to the opening night of her tour, gives him backstage passes, and then she unexpectedly expresses her longing for him and confesses that none of the fame and success means anything without him and that she misses him. Backstage, Tedros notices a new hairbrush, despite Jocelyn previously telling him about her late mother's abusive action with the hairbrush. That part also I didn't quite get. There's a bunch of staring and smiling. They lost me there too. I think they're trying to convey that Jocelyn was lying, but it doesn't really read that obvious. But she can't be lying, right? Because Xander witnessed the abuse, no? And again, I was just really bored and detached. And then when Jocelyn gets on stage, she brings out Tedros during a concert and declares that he's the love of her life. They share a kiss and she says she owns him. And I'm not really sure what all of that means. Again, they lost me. I was confused. Also didn't care enough to go back and see what it meant because, I don't know, yeah. And that's the end. Yeah. Yeah, made 0 sense to me. All I can say is great gowns, beautiful gowns. Because again, it looks beautiful. But we've got to ask ourselves, was this really necessary? Because personally, I don't think it was necessary. And I don't know why they had Lily Rose Depp showing her ass in almost every single shot. Like, was it necessary? Really? And it's a shame because I could tell she was really putting energy into this. Like, she really put a little something in there. She was trying. Unfortunately, yeah. Great gowns. Pretty gowns. Like I was saying, this seems to be a Sam Levinstein problem. Like, from all the criticism and all the praise he got from Euphoria Season 1, all he might have seemed to have heard was provocative, and he ran with that. And this is what we have now. He seems to think that he can replace decent storytelling with aesthetics and vibes, and unfortunately that just isn't working. And that's just a shame, because I feel like I'm on the opposite opinion. I feel like he could be a really good writer-director if he could collaborate more. Another issue that was discussed in the Rolling Stone article, that he doesn't seem to collaborate more. He has great ideas on his own, and he has potential to be amazing, but no one man is an island. If you want to build something, especially that appeals to different kind of people, you need different perspectives, you need different people involved. So it has, I don't know, so that's the thing about inclusivity. If you want to appeal to a mass crowd, you need to include different perspectives to help you create something that appeals to people universally. If I'm making sense. I don't know if I'm waffling about making sense, but basically that's his problem. He doesn't like to collaborate, and he thinks style over substance is enough to create amazing television. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. Numbers are there, but are people really regarding your show as something amazing? I mean, it's okay if you can, because I really do think art is objective. But if you're trying to appeal to people, you need to appeal to people. Does that make sense? Looking back, I think one of the reasons why I found the show boring and just couldn't get into it was because even though the story is about Jocelyn, we barely really know her. Like, we are told stuff about her, and like we see how people see her. We see her through other people's eyes, but we barely really get to know her. And like, without really knowing her, we can't really care about her. And if we don't care about the journey of the lead character, and we don't know enough about the side characters either, there's nothing for us to get attached to. So what are we left with? I honestly thought this video would be much longer than it is. I planned to do like an in-depth discussion or like watch with me throughout the video, but honestly, yeah, I just couldn't get hooked into the story. I remember watching season 1 of Euphoria, and I was actually like engaged into the story. I was there with them, but this one I was just so far removed, and I don't know why. I was trying to figure out why. I think it might just be, yeah, just the storytelling isn't consistent, the pacing isn't good. I feel like they waste a lot of potential screen time that could use to build the story more. It just wastes potential. I feel like it had potential, but it just wasn't giving. And I think like having the Weeknd's bad acting kind of played a role in it as well. It kind of removed me from it because it was just the Weeknd being bad at acting. It wasn't Tedros, or whoever Tedros is supposed to be. Yeah. Unfortunately, he doesn't even get a rating for me. I just thought it was dead. I couldn't care less, and I probably will never revisit it. So yeah, that's my take on The Idol. It wasn't bad. It was just really boring. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you guys watch it? Did you enjoy it? I feel like on YouTube there's a lot of videos on it, so definitely people have opinions on it. I just couldn't care less. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe for more videos. I drop them mainly on Sundays. It could be next Sunday, it could be in 2 weeks, who knows. I'm trying my best. But yeah, that's it for me. Enjoy. I hope you guys had a great weekend and enjoy your week. I'll see you next one. Bye.